Welcome, everyone. I'm Kelly Walsh, head of middle school here at Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are excited to have all of you with us, and please note we are recording this webinar. We will be making it available to a larger audience when we're finished tonight. And I'm really pleased to introduce you to our group here tonight. Joining me is Dr. David Murphy, who will be our key presenter, and my colleague, Maura Henry, current math teacher, former director of skills and academic strategies here at Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall, and also basketball coach, also important to note. We have a lot going on today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Murphy, who's going to share a presentation with us. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A. And if it's something quick and easy that Maura and I can respond to as we go along, we will. If not, we'll save them to the end and bring us all back together to listen to those questions. So David, take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Well, I'm going to kind of get you guys thinking for a second. So we have Amanda, we have Dave, Dave, nice to meet you. Lisa, Margaret, and Matt, right? So thanks for joining. Can you all do, just to kind of help me to help you, if you could just add into the chat, this is helpful. Who's on your mind? You know, maybe you can give a son or daughter or name, doesn't matter. But most importantly, why you're here. Like, what would you like? What's one problem you would like to solve in your family, with your child? And because this is very much like a panel-like discussion, it's not as much as a presentation where we have an audience of 30 deep, where it gets a little harder to engage. I really want this to be a back and forth, and I've kind of asked Maura to help lead that and just really tease out questions and comments or concerns as I speak, as I go through certain slides and topics. So if you can do that, take a minute. As you're doing that, the second thing is, if you have a notebook, you're going to want to have it with you, because I treat my presentations like as I would a teacher. So I'm a teacher. I've been teaching special ed for 20 years. I also run a business. So as a teacher, I'm not used to sitting. I'm sitting right now giving this presentation, which is very outside my comfort zone. But I'm going to give you questions to answer. I'm going to make it very workshop based so that you're thinking. Just as a student, I'm going to make my students think as much as I do as a teacher. So I'm going to ask you to think, because I think what they'll do is allow you to take something out of this presentation more than just hearing me babble. And but you can take the information and make it something meaningful based on the questions I ask. Does that sound all right? If you want, give me emoji thumbs up if that makes sense to you, and if you're willing to participate, great. I'll take a couple risk takers in the room to give a shout out with a question that you might have. But please start with just kind of giving your thoughts on the chat, and I'm going to screen share. I think I'll still be able to see the chat when I do that. So bear with me as I flip the screen here. So I can do that. All right, I'm going to do slideshow. Let's see where we are. Okay. All right, awesome. So this little image down here, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner. If you have a phone and if you'd like to have access to this presentation, just take your phone over that image and you can download it, or you can access it on your phone. There'll be links that I'm going to have in this presentation that you will be able to click. Or if you want to refer back to a slide that's meaningful to you, and instead of trying to take copious notes as we present, that's not really the point. The point is for you to listen and ask questions and engage in this topic. But if you want to refer back to pieces of it, then you'll have access to the whole slide. So if you want to do that now, feel free. That same link is here as well. So let me know if you're having issues with that, or if you're technologically challenged like many of us. Ask me a question and I'll talk you through it. But these are some of the topics I'm going to hit on today. I will say you can change this based on your questions. I'm going to drill down and go down rabbit holes that matter to you. I always feel like I know enough to be helpful in so many areas. And so when I do these presentations, as Kelly and I were kind of trying to geek out on what was going to be really important to this community, obviously it was that it got me kind of thinking on a few themes. However, I didn't know the audience, and because of that, I really try to make these presentations as meaningful as possible. And if I know enough, I can be meaningful with the types of problems that you're looking to answer. So before I do that, I'm just checking on my chat for a second. So when I click on chat, why are you not showing up?
I can be your chat monitor if you'd like, David.
Oh, that'd be awesome, Maura. That was such a great recommendation.
Well, we've got 3 very similar sort of questions so far.
That's great. Okay. So as you read stuff and the questions come up, that's super helpful. So let's get into this. Let's have some fun. So I come at this as a professional. I come at this as a teacher, but also come at this as a parent. So I have an 8th grader who is, broke through the pandemic, survived, but licking a lot of wounds, like a lot of us, watching our kids try to recover. And I have a 2nd grader who literally missed kindergarten and had an awful 1st grade year with a teacher that he didn't like. I was like, who doesn't like your 1st grade teacher? And I was like, blown away with this teacher. She should have retired. I think she should have retired years ago, and unfortunately, so he's suffered that. And so he's in 2nd grade, and actually came home on his 2nd day of school and says, "I want to go. I really like my teacher." It was just we all know those moments. You start to you almost want to cry because you're like, "Oh, thank God, we're gonna have a better year." But my history runs deep in terms of working with really dynamic kiddos and parents. From the days when I first finished my master's in special ed, I ended up kind of becoming rising in the ranks in a private school and becoming a special ed, the educational director of a small school in Connecticut. And that school at that point was not, they didn't use the term executive functions, but this school was for those kids. Low incident behaviors, but school refusal, anxiety, really learning profiles that were super complex. And that's really where I fell in love with this work. And from that Connecticut journey, got married, had kids, and moved back to Massachusetts, where I'm originally from, on the South Shore. And with my wife, who's from Cape Cod. Shout out to Cape Cod. If anybody has a history of Cape Cod, love that place. And so now I'm a special ed teacher, co-teacher in Duxbury, Mass. And this is I joke, my work wife. We've been co-teaching now for over 10 years. So any educators in the room understand that when you are co-teaching, it's one of the most complex relationships of the marriage. And if it works, then you've hit a home run in terms of effectiveness as a teacher. So I also work at a learning center. And so I wear so many hats as a teacher, and then it flips over into the work I do in my coaching practice, in really my goal of trying to solve some of the complex problems I couldn't solve in the classroom, and what that looked like in terms of building a business. Really just evolved over time towards really having a real gifted team of coaches that the pandemic made us really go virtual. So I have coaches across the country at this point that I've been blessed to not only get to know, but to train and help them to expand their professional capacity to be able to do this type of work. And so we do a systems level type support. We work with families, not just the kids, but the complexity of the family. So helping to build capacity for long-term growth, not just solving one little problem as it relates to a homework habit, right? But the complexity of building executive function skills holistically. And that's really been really rewarding. And I'm really fortunate to be doing that, and fortunate to be here on behalf, through Kelly and the school community, to be able to offer my, whatever knowledge I have, and making it helpful to you as parents doing the hard work. This is just some of my team members that are doing awesome work out there, and they'd probably be super embarrassed if they saw me showing the pictures. But anyways, I'm just really humbled by the team, and I'm really blessed, and I think they're just amazing people. So, but this may be a helpful resource. I just put the slide in here. These are free online stuff that we have, that parents have access to. It's through a Teachables platform that I pay for and built. And it's really, there's some stuff in there that you could pay for, but there's so much free stuff on there that I say log in, sign up for free. And if there's something in there that gravitates towards you, if particularly to the parenting stuff that we have into the trainings, the videos, the the free content that can be used tomorrow in terms of helping you to help your kiddos. That's just our way of just taking what we know and saying, here, if you have the time and you're motivated to figure it out on your own, great. We've read the books, so we try to put it all together for something that's meaningful and accessible to parents. So I try to frame out our goal, our intention in this type of conversation. And it's really important that we kind of keep in mind some simple truths about our parenting goal, right? The complexity of our kiddos get kind of cloud this notion or this goal in mind, but I've always liked this goal. I haven't changed it in years because it still resonates. I think for me as a parent, but I think collectively, we're here because we're helping our kids work through challenges, but we're also here in this journey of helping our kids to help themselves, right? To become independent, to become the best version of themselves out there in the world, right? And so when we see them struggling in our own perspective, we want to be able to help them. And this process and this training is really a way of saying, okay, how do I help them without becoming their frontal lobe, right? So my first question to you, if you took the challenge and brought your notebook to this workshop, then my first question to you is, what do you see your child being when they're 25 years old? Who are they? I want you to picture this. This is a nonverbal working task for a second. Picture who your child is at 25. Right? Take into consideration what your child, what you find most enjoyable about your child and how that might expand into who they might be at 25. What do you see them doing? How do you see them fulfilling their place on this planet as you see their strengths and you see their innate abilities? That's a fun task. You could probably, that would push you. If I had an ideal workshop, I'd give you a 20-minute silent mode to work through that really powerful process. So give yourself some space on your paper. And now I want you to just think for yourself, what are you anxious about? What are you anxious about? Okay. And this is the theme in this. I talk about nagging not because it's a term that we use as parents. It's actually a term our kids use. They know that term, and it makes sense to them when they think about nagging parents. So we're going to kind of unpack that. But to start that off, what do you think are a few things that you nag about the most? We're doing okay. I can't see anybody, so I can't get any nonverbal cues of how we're doing. So you just got to, speak up if there's something going on. All right, that you want to pause or ask a question. Okay, so I'm going to talk about two different constructs here. Constructs, one of them being self-regulation, the other one being executive functions. I think it's important as we as intelligent parents become more empowered to go out and learn what executive functions are. It's important to understand the relationship here as you try to separate these two strong constructs when working with your child, because they're very important in understanding the complexity of the cognitive process related to executive functions. All right. So this diagram, this GIF file, is awesome. You're going to see it throughout the slides. I love showing it. I love talking about it. It gives a visual representation of what is helpful for us to know. We talk about parents. We talk about parenting with the brain in mind with parenting, parent coaching. And one of the ways we do that is to empower parents to see the logic of why the brain does what it does, like why emotions can override logic and things like that. But here you have this image that shows this red section, which is self-regulation. It's stimuli coming in and unconsciously being processed through the child. Right, this can lead to fight or flight. Right, it can lead to instant reaction. It can lead to all sorts of. We'll think of kind of the emotions of things: interest, curiosity. Oh, it's like the squirrel effect. Oh, that's a shiny new thing. I'm going to go get it. So this can lead to that. So what ends up happening is ideally, as we kind of move through a day, move through making decisions, we have this moment where this gate of attention takes over, right? And that attention and there's no judgment of what type of attention. We're not talking positive, we're not talking negative, we're just talking attention. It's this moment where I stop and I think. And when I do think, I'm making a decision that I want to act on certain stimuli, right? And that's when I'm engaging executive functions. That makes sense? So there's this intentional kind of moment where I did make a decision. It may be subconsciously, and that's okay. Our kids, we're young, and we even adults, we make subconscious decisions. But it's a decision nonetheless where I am engaging in a process, these cognitive processes, right? That's going to require me to plan, to organize, to then make decisions about what I want to do with that intention, right? When I open that gate, okay? So there's this interwoven relationship between the two that I just feel is really important for us to appreciate. And what becomes really helpful in that appreciation is acknowledging that I cannot use executive function skills unless I have an intention. Okay? So what does that mean? So it means if I want something, if I have an intention, a goal, a desire, if I'm motivated for something, then I'm going to open that gate and engage executive functions. Okay? So because we talk about executive functions as being these separate constructs. I'm going to go a little bit into the theoretical part, and I don't know. I don't like. I can go deep into it, and I don't like to, but I like to treat parents as as being intelligently curious as you are for being part of these trainings. So I try to at least give you a snippet of like, okay, I'm going to geek out for a few minutes on frontal lobe kind of executive function stuff, but I don't do a deep dive because that's not really the place right here. But it is important to understand. So when we think about this relationship, it's just important to see that with our children, even ourselves, we do not use our front executive functions unless we have an intention, a goal, a desire of which initiates that intentional, that the gate goes up and I'm now making decisions. Okay. So one of the best interventions for self-regulation. So if your child is, you know your child can be dysregulated. So we think about dysregulation. It's like, okay, my child can have mood swing up and down. My child can be happy 1 minute and frustrated the next. One of the best exercises to work with to help develop awareness is breathing. Right? It's you can get all complex into all these other types of notions around how to, but one of the simplest things to teach children, and the sooner you do it, the better, is how to attend and pay attention to your breath. Right? So I'm going to prove it to you. I know, please don't. But I'm going to prove it to you. I want you to pause for a second, put your hands on your lap. Okay, put your pencil down, if you have one. Put hands on your lap, all right? And I want you just to close your eyes and listen. Okay, you ready? All right. Give me a second to get back into the top here. Okay. What I want you to do in 3, 2, 1 is I want you to breathe in. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 3, 2, 1. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Okay, open your eyes. Now, simple question. Do you feel better or worse? Typically, that simple process of 66 seconds, you should feel better, more aware, more present. And when I'm present, I'm more regulated. And that was just a 66-second process. So when we think about how a tool, a strategy as a parent that I can be teaching my child once a day before bed, It doesn't matter. Like maybe before they come in and out of school, be transitioning between activities. It doesn't really matter. It's just a process. I'm helping my child become aware of their own, this automatic process that we have within ourselves that can be used to help gain awareness, which is really important with that image, right? With that gate coming up and down. The more aware I am, the more I can acknowledge and notice when my attention is not where I need it to be. Okay. That was fun, right? Okay. I'm going to geek out for a second, but my point of this is executive function constructs, theoretical constructs have been around forever, right? This is Thomas Brown. He is a guru in the space even today. You've probably read something about him from him. And so back in 2001, just like, whoa, I graduated college then. Like that's barely, right? That's a really long time ago. He had these constructs in place, but they were different. You can kind of read the labels of them, right? In 2004, and this is this is Dawson and Guerrero. They've been around for a while, putting out awesome content. Their flagship book is Smart but Scattered. They took a big leap into breaking executive functions into behavioral and cognitive profiles, right? And so this is great. I do a lot of trainings just on these constructs for educators because educators can teach the kids. And I think that's empowering for kids to know what my executive functions are so that I can learn, become more aware of how to use them. But that was 2004, 2011. Now this is Russell Barkley. I mean, this guy's prolific. I just copy that picture down below is just a fraction of the books and publications he's put out over these years. And so he put together this executive function scale, and he only looks at 5 categories. Keep in mind the problem-solving one. I'm going to talk about what that means. I love that term, the problem-solving one, and I love working memory as a construct. And he doesn't even mention working memory here, even though it's covered within one of these factors. But 2019, the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University came out with different findings all together, and they really packaged executive functions into only 3 categories. This is where I got this GIF file, by the way. So love their stuff, and I love how simple they try to compartmentalize executive functions, because the truth is they're all interwoven. So to break them up into as if they're separate components isn't an accurate representation of the complexity of building these skills. So, and I love the fact that she brought up they brought up working memory as one of the core executive functions. I would agree. It's significantly important. We're going to talk about why as part of this training. I picked a couple of executive functions to geek out on and give suggestions and strategies of how to build them. So that was 2019. And so you can kind of see over the span, we still come to this conclusion that executive functions aren't necessarily this defined term or this defined construct that everyone agrees on. And so as teachers, as educators, as parents, as professionals, what we really just want to target is symptoms. Be aware of the symptoms. What is my child struggling with? I don't need to name it as an executive function as much as it's important to understand my child, understand their strengths, understand their role in overcoming the symptoms, overcoming the challenge, and learning compensatory strategies, right, tools and processes in order to improve in that area. Okay, so working memory being something we can't necessarily, so we can do a lot of good stuff in our daily habits to improve our access to working memory. We can't necessarily increase it from a standardized battery, a cognitive profile where someone has a working memory of 96. Well, that's not fair. But working memory is really the capacity to manage information real time. Gets complicated. Here's why. Your child has a first period class. It's math. They hate math. Your child has a second period class. It's English. They love English. Third period, science. By the end of the day, their working memory is responsible for first period class when they do homework at 6 p.m. Good luck. So for our kids that may have these self-regulation challenges and managing their attention, right, managing their emotion and executive function challenges and ADHD, it's like that's super hard. So they need strategies to make sure that they're getting through the day, tracking the information they need to track, and having processes and strategies in place to be able to reference back to the day, right? So, but here's working memory gets really complicated because I love talking about these two parts. You have the nonverbal and you have the verbal. The nonverbal being, so if anybody in the audience has a child that might be labeled with the nonverbal learning disability, this will relate to you. You'll understand this. But what ends up happening for a lot of our kiddos is you have, for most functioning kind of people we see in pictures, and the pictures of the nonverbal, it's like, okay, I see what my day looks like, or I see the things that I care about. And now I translate that into some type of language-based self-talk process that allows me to organize the decisions related to what I want to do with that. And ideally, they're mirrored in such a nice meshed way that I'm seamlessly able to interplay images and self-talk or verbal strategies throughout the day, right? But for many of our kiddos, this is kind of what it looks like the nonverbal, the way I see things in my day. For example, if it is clouded. It's not that clear. I don't see in the images, the pictures, I don't see in this image of identity, right? Meaning, what does tomorrow look like? Right? What does my homework process look like? Right? That's a statement of image. Look, right? I see it. And because of that, it's really hard for me to then anchor the verbal aspect of what it means to follow through on the process on what that looks like. So I don't anchor in the emotionality of who I'm trying to be. Right? Because so if this is like who I'm trying to be is this image, these pictures, these kind of things I love and things I need to do, then I can develop this language around who I'm trying to be. Right? So in our work, we're trying to build that relationship. Right? And trying to teach our kiddos that just because something has more of an emotional energy to it doesn't mean that it's more important. What does that mean? Well, it's like a Fortnite, for example, right? It's like, I want to play video games all the time. I love it, but I can't, but so the emotionality there is super intense, and doing homework isn't. So I want to try to develop that relationship between the nonverbal relationship of building around who I'm trying to be, right? What it looks like and the language that goes with it. So for example, when I start thinking about my identity, start thinking about my future self, what does it look like? What does my homework process look like? I have this image around me sitting and attending, and I'm looking at my homework, and it's look at the clock, and it says 6 o'clock. And so I'm thinking through that process, the steps to get there. This is very Sarah Ward. This is very get ready, do, done. But what does the final product look like? And then what are the steps that I'm trying to develop, or that are part of achieving that outcome? And that's very image-based, right? I'm just showing images around what it looks like. It looks like that's Schoology, for example, but you guys have a different platform, but it looks like my LMS platform. It looks like my planner that I have that I'm learning how to be more consistent using, right? It looks like me checking off the assignments. It looks like me parking the time robbers. That's the little guy in the upper corner there. He's actually a time robber. And those would be the distractions, right? The things that I tend to procrastinate doing, right? So I have to park them. I have to cage them. I have to put them in jail. And then as I think through that, I also have a language that goes with it. And you start with the intentionality of that language. What is my goal? Well, my goal is to get all my assignments done every day. We talk about 0 zeros as a mindset. It's like my 0 zeros. I want to be able to get all my assignments passed in on time. And there's this energy around that goal, right? It's kind of a noble goal, and it's hard to do, but I'm trying to develop consistency in doing it. And I sometimes make it, sometimes don't, but I'm still, every day I think about that goal, and here's my process. And then afterwards, I earn my reward, like my personal free time activity, right? So the reason I'm saying all this, I just want to understand that, yeah, David, that's why we're here, because this is what my kid stinks at. I know, but it's important to kind of see the interplay and the cognitive aspect of this. I don't know, just because I think intellectually it empowers us as parents to understand the complexity, and that if our kids could, they would, right? I think there's this notion too that we meet them where they are, and we're going to help them get further. So what does this look like in terms of an action plan? Well, it looks like this. This is Victoria. Victoria was one of my first clients, and we did a nonverbal exercise where we went around and we took pictures of her doing all of the morning routines, that were all the morning tasks. And she loved that. It was like and it was all her. We talked about what her morning looks like. She came up with her list of things she has to get done in the morning. And we went around and took pictures of it. And then I anchored those pictures because it's her visually seeing who she's trying to be, right? The nonverbal. And then we anchored it with the verbal, right? The I statements, right? And then gave her a chance to actually track her own progress. What does it look like for me to even see the fruit of my labor? This is what it looks like, kiddo. And the best thing is, do you know what she wanted to earn after completing her morning? She wanted to earn a hug from mom. Like, come on, like she wanted this as much as anybody, but the battles, I mean, she would leave school so stressed because the fights in the house, not fights, but just the battles to get her out the door. So this process was really empowering, but what it also did is it built the nonverbal and verbal relationship that was necessary so that when that gate opened, when her attention was put in the right places, meaning this is who I'm trying to be, my intentionality is higher, my emotions are more aligned with who I'm trying to be. Cool, I'm going to be more successful. A powerful tool for working memory. This is just one, right? I don't know if I'm going to have time to talk about note-taking. I will talk about it if someone says, David, talk about note-taking. But using the planner is a powerful tool for working memory. Like I said, from math class all the way to the end of the class day, having a place where I see a reference of who I'm trying to be. Now, this is a nonverbal. This represents an image of my identity, me being an effective student. Now, imagine I have a planner here, and it's not the one I was. So anyway, so I was in my office. When this planner is filled out, and you ask a child, how did last week go? And they open up last week on their planner, and they see that their assignments were checked off. Now, that may have required a lot of prompting with somebody, but that's okay because we met them where they were, right? Maybe someone was kind of helping them go through the process successfully for a week, but they see the fruits of their labor. Like, how'd you do last week? Well, and they go back to last week and they're like, wow, looks like I did pretty well. I got this assignment done. And they see this evidence. And what is that anchoring is this relationship of nonverbal representation of who I'm trying to be. And what did you do well last week? And now they're verbalizing it. So it's really anchoring this process that allows them to start to develop tools and strategies to improve that cognitive deficit. Okay. So I didn't say this, but I was planning on just kind of talking until someone said, David, I have a question. And I should have
David, we
said
have
that
some
at the
questions.
beginning, but I didn't. So
we
if you
do
have
questions. We do have some.
Oh,
sure.
Thanks, Maura. Yeah, just
So these are back from like when we started, just thinking about sort of what people want or why are you here, kind of responding to that question with their question. So like, as the student is getting older, how do we balance independence with homework and making sure that it's done and completed accurately? Somebody sort of like signal boosted that, saying that they too are trying to find that right balance between independence and accuracy. And there's a question about like organizing the time and assignments, like if they could help themselves without too much intervention, that would, because they feel better when they are independent. The student feels better, which I see all the time too. Go ahead.
The hardest part of doing homework typically is getting started. Okay. So start there and then wait for the next struggle. And we'll talk about problem solving skills, because that's a huge section of this, is literally how to help my child solve their own problems. It's so empowering, and it's where we want to be as parents. Like you're saying, I want to keep solving all my kids' problems. Like, that, I feel like, I just feel like the frontal lobe, but I also feel like I'm too involved. Yeah, that's true. There's this fine line between that and enabling, right? I don't want to do that, but I don't want to see them fail. True. We don't want to see them fail too many times, right? That's always kind of like, how many times is too many? I don't know. How much stress can they handle, right? It's like, right? Because that's also part of it, right? Our kids are going to make amazing ER doctors because they can handle so much stress under pressure. Right? They all know that. It's just, it's a hard way to live. So I'll talk more about that. So Maura, I'll come to that piece. And if I did not still answer that question, then I'll elaborate on any piece. So I just want to talk for a second, because it's really important in this, as I talk at these different levels, that how to generalize this to my kid and what does it mean in terms. Fundamentally, we have to always meet our children where they are. Because if our expectations, that the gap between where they are and our expectations is too high, that leads to the overwhelming stress to get to that level of expectation without the skills to get there. So it is always really important as a team, not parents isolated with their child at the desk, right? Because teachers don't know. They don't know what the struggles are unless someone helps the school to see it. Oh, yes, kid did great this quarter. Look at this. Every assignment was passed in on time. No, that was me. I was the one getting all those assignments passed in on time. Well, I don't know that if the parents, so I always say, if you can, so that sometimes you have to let the school see the truth so that they can be helpful. And there's always this line, unless you have a really responsive school and people in it, that you don't have to do that, but that's not always the case. So sometimes you have to play the different card. But meeting our kids where they are developmentally is necessary for many of our kiddos, and important for their development, right? So sometimes our kiddos deal with this, our students, our children deal with this chronic state of anxiety and stress because they know they're not there. And they're constantly reminded that you are not meeting the expectations that your peers and your parents have put on you and your teachers have put on you, right? Because they want to do it, right? I always say to kids, the reason you're stressed, man, is because your desire, your motivation to achieve these goals is high. You're just watching yourself struggle, and the struggles are causing so much chronic anxiety that it's just a state of being. So self-regulation training is one way of helping them regulate, right? The breathing techniques is amazingly effective at helping a child with chronic anxiety to go from that, whatever they are in chronic, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, down to a 4, 3, 2. That's why it's important. That's why it's such a great tool to teach. But this is a cool, so these little links right here, you could, if you click on that, if you have this, if you've accessed the presentation, you can use these resources here that can help you to, I don't know, just measure where your child might be developmentally, but you can kind of guess. You don't have to, you don't have to become a scientist on it. It's just parent intuition is probably good enough, but it allows us as a community to be more appropriate to meet them where they are. And that has to do with homework habits as well. And I'll get into that. So we all know how we increase dysregulation, right? The social media world, the gaming world, they are phenomenally successful at doing what they intended to do. And that's steal our kids' attention. Steal it, captivate it, harness it, and create addictive-like patterns that keep our children from thinking about who they are trying to be. And we can't blame the kids. We just can only blame ourselves. All right? Our children are not going to parent the way we did. It's like the 60s, right? Every generation says, I'm not going to make the same mistakes. But we watch them struggle with something that many of us struggle with ourselves. So I'm going to talk about a term here. I really feel I'm really passionate about this notion of autobiographical planning, because as a teacher, I see it all day long. I literally see high schoolers still playing Minecraft on their laptop. Minecraft, 10th grade. Why? Because they've lost the battle. of making a strong, meaningful connection with who they're trying to be. And the only thing they can resort back to is the memories of playing Minecraft in middle school and how much they enjoyed it. So they're going to keep playing in high school because it's a good thing to do to waste the time. We drive to school. You all drive your kids to school, or you're driving when the bus, you're seeing kids standing by the bus stop. What are they doing? They're standing on their phones. The phones represent the opposite of who I'm trying to be, right? And in that quiet contemplative time period of just those moments in the day that I can sit and think, what do I sit and think about? I don't. So this is just significantly important as us as parents to just be so vigilant about and continuing to try to create within our kids downtime, time to reflect, time to think, time to process, time to contemplate without a goal, just contemplating, right? Thinking about tomorrow, thinking about today, thinking about this morning. It's really empowering to developing these cognitive processes. I don't know how popular this website is. I have an 8th grader, and not a single parent has sent this link to me, but maybe it's because of the work I do. I mean, maybe they assume that I've already done it, but my daughter didn't get a cell phone until she was in 8th grade. I thought she'd hate me for it, but maybe she just kind of knew. But she will successfully make it through middle school without any of the unnecessary drama. It's middle school drama. It's part of it's a rite of passage, but the unnecessary stuff and how we protect our kids. So that's a great website. It's a great resource. It's helpful to do it as a community, so your kid's not left on an island by themselves. However, so anyways, food for thought. Nobody can tell us how to parent. We just gotta, make decisions based on what we know, right? So the autobiographical planning leads into this idea of metacognitive skills. So, do I assume that nobody knows what metacognition is, or let's just kind of, for simplistic sake, well, the complex phrase is it's thinking about thinking. The simple phrase, it's about problem solving. Okay. While I'm thinking about my own thinking, what I'm thinking about is who I'm trying to be and what problems are getting in the way. Right? So what we want to do as parents, the younger we start this, because this isn't a quick fix. This is like time and attention. If I'm going to have 10,000 problems to help my child figure out in the next 5 years or throughout middle school into high school, it's a time and attention around building a cognitive process around what does a problem look like and how do I feel empowered and develop the skills, the self-efficacy skills. I didn't get there yet, to solve them. So what's the best question to ask a child when they're stuck or off task? Now, stuck or off task means that there is a problem that they are, they're having a problem that they haven't solved yet. Right? Now, we as conscientious parents that know everything, we know what their problem is. We know why they're stuck. And we typically, because we're either rushed or we have other things to do, we'll typically just jump in and figure it out for them. Right? I'm not saying don't do that, but what I am saying is if you could pause and come up with a plan of what to say that not only keeps us out of their frontal lobe, but more importantly, engages them in the thinking process. Open-ended questions, non-judgmental, open-ended questions are so empowering, not only to the relationship between you and your child, but to helping your child through that problem-solving process. Right? So this is based on work by Ross Green. you can, I think I have his link here, so you don't have to write much down on him, but he's phenomenal. He's in Massachusetts. His first book was The Explosive Child. If anybody in this room knows Ross Green, then I don't need to say much else, but an amazing resource. His website is phenomenal. But as a parent, we just want to catch ourselves really at this point, right? Because if we catch ourselves in staying out of the frontal lobe, then we can also start moving ourselves in a more of an effective executive function coach direction, parent coach direction. And that's really what this is about, right? So first is I want to say it's not my problem. Whatever my child is dealing with is not my problem. I don't need to get emotional about it. I don't need to get irrational about it. I don't need to get illogical about it. And I sure as hell don't need to solve it. It's not my problem. That's so refreshing to you and to me. I mean, part of what this trading too is like, I want my parents doing less. I want my kids doing more. I want my students doing more. So if it's not my problem, then I can stop and not solve it. What do I do with it though? Right? What do I do with it? Is I just want to engage in a non-judgmental, non-confrontational, what's up? I notice you are struggling. Now that's pretty general. As you get better at it, you can get far more specific. But to start, what's up? Right? It doesn't really matter. Like you could walk into their room and they're on their phone and you can walk in there and be like, what's up? And they look at you and they know why you're there. They know why you're asking the question. You just want to get them thinking about why they be on their phone at a time when they were supposed to be downstairs at the kitchen table in the common room, finishing their math work. Which, by the way, in terms of problem solving, I don't have a slide on this, so I had to remind myself to say it, is create common areas in your house for homework habits. All right. Only the overachieving kid that loves school should be doing their homework in their bedroom. Okay. The rest of us, that would me included, common area where proximity control can help guide attention, meaning you're just there. You can help with initiation, and you can help if some problems come up. I'm here to help you answer it. Mom, can you check this thing for me? Sure. Right? It's just, you start early, because you try to change that in high school and they're like, I've been doing it for the last 5 years. You just end up dealing with more of it's my world. I want to fail on my own, versus just start middle school, build that community, build that awareness. And then you have to have a culture of that. The TV has to be off, downstairs has to be quiet, everything has to be cleaned up. You just have to create a culture of this is the library. Downstairs becomes a library between the hours of 4 and 9. And that's just the way it is. But you go to the bedroom. Bedroom's free time. When you're done with your work, go to the bedroom. I'll check off your planner. How'd you do? Great. High five. Nice work. Go enjoy. So Lives in the Balance. That's the Ross Green site. Whole Brain Child is a great resource for parents that are really looking for resources. I would say just read it 5 times, and it's going to take care of a lot of the problems. You don't have to read much else. It's a really, really helpful resource. And the person driving is not us, that's parents, that's the child, just so you know, even though our children don't have their license yet. And then third part of it really is the problem solving, the action plan, right? It's like, what is your plan? I'm here to help you with it, right? There's multiple solutions to every problem. Now, keep in mind, this requires executive function skills, okay? Because I had to open the gate, engage executive function skills in order to solve problems. Why do you think so many of our kids just say, I forgot? I forgot. First of all, parents can't do anything with it because, okay, not much I can do with you forgetting, right? Or I pass it in. It's all done. Because solving problems requires executive function skills. It also requires having resources and tools of which to solve problems on. So if I don't have a tool or a schedule or some type of way of nonverbal kind of anchoring around a tool or strategy to help solve problems, then I'm just going to be spiraling in the chronic state of suffering, endless problems, right? So as I help them say, what's your plan? I'm going to help them walk through. Maybe they need help on coming up with a plan. Maybe they don't, right? Maybe they know the solution. It's just, you want them figuring it out. Right. And this builds, I had a slide, I'll get to it. Bandura's self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is this feeling. It's an awesome term. I did my doctorate in it, and I did not realize that it would all come back as presentation topics. But self-efficacy is this feeling within myself that I can solve my own problems. It's actually a word for it.
Yeah, and I think, David, that's what Margaret, who put in the chat, said that her students feel better when they are independent, right? It's that feeling of I solved my own problem. It's very empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David and Maura, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in for a second. I'm just keeping an eye on our time, and I don't think we've had any new questions, Maura, as far as I know, right?
Oh my goodness, it is 7:55. I'm sorry, gang. Like, we're supposed to have stopped 2 minutes ago, ask Q&A.
So I just thought we'd see if
there
were any other questions. If there are any other questions, or if you have a question, no? Okay. And if not, we'll give David a couple more minutes to share, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Can I just signal boost something that David said about letting I forget how you said this, letting the parent, like, when the parent pulls out of the process of homework and the child stumbles, that's very informative for the teacher, right? And that's like a great opportunity for me as a teacher to step in, and sometimes it comes with an email from home secretly to me that's like, I just decided to back out of the homework process, and I don't know, and you know, I'll check back in with that parent in 24 hours, but you know, like, the kid comes in with their work and it's not perfect, or it's inaccurate but complete, or incomplete, you know, whatever the situation is, and you can give the student feedback, and they get to that point that you referred to, Margaret, where they start to feel proud of themselves. And in the beginning, it is hard. It can be hard and painful, but that's okay, as long as we're all still there in the supportive mode. Like, you know, sometimes we say in SAS, life is hard and life is tough, and so are you. Or we say, this is hard and I can do hard things.
Growth mindset. Love it. Yeah, I love it. So another strategy as a parent that can be grounding for us as like, how do I help my child to help themselves, is this process, activated learning process. You know, we've been teaching teachers how to do this also in the school day. By the way, teachers are as guilty as anybody. We just go through the day solving all of our kids' problems because we're just phenomenal executive functions, right? So when we are given a chance to pause and teach the process of learning, because school has become so outcome driven, I love the fact that you guys are kind of getting away from that as a culture and promoting and evaluating the process of learning, which is so empowering to us, to the young learners, right? But helping children to recognize barriers that are impacting their achievement, barriers or, you know, or obstacles, as I like to say sometimes. And then what are the strategies that I'm going to try? Okay, you try that strategy, right? What are you going to try to help figure that out? Maybe it's a missed homework assignment. Oh, I'm going to go talk to my teacher tomorrow. And then your child comes home and you say, how did that go? Right? Oh, I forgot. Okay, so we have a new barrier. The barrier is I forgot to remind myself to do something important regarding an assignment with my teacher. Okay, so let's tackle that barrier related to the goal of getting all my assignments into my teachers, right? So you're just helping your child work through that process, not with no real judgment, right? It's like, I just want to help them to help themselves to see these problems through and realize there's so many strategies that I can try to solve any one problem. What might happen is I try one strategy, it didn't work, and I throw it all out and I move on, and the problem gets thrown in the trash. Never gets thrown in the trash, comes back to us. But that can happen time and time again. You can click on this link. It's accessible. This is maybe more for an educator, but for parents, you can have this in as like a model, that kind of a nonverbal working memory image that can be used ongoing every day as you talk with your children about what's your aim, what is your goal, what are the barriers, and what are my strategies that I'm going to try today, tomorrow, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the topic is. We're always thinking about the self-regulation. What is my attention? Where am I going? What am I trying to achieve? What are the barriers? What are the obstacles? And what are the strategies I'm going to try to intervene and improve in that area? It's powerful. Do it 10,000 times as your child over the next 3 years. And I guarantee you, your child's metacognitive skills will improve. It'll improve in areas like this, areas like this, areas like this, right? Areas like this. So real, natural, real life kind of stuff, like ADL type of stuff, but also school stuff, right? And then, yeah, so I'm going to bounce to this, but prioritizing is a good construct to talk about. What does priorities look like? What are they? How do I know I'm effectively organizing my attention around the most important ones? That can be really empowering to middle schoolers as they think about who they are. And with their parents' support, what are priorities and how do I know what matters most? Health being number one. We all know that, right? If I can't take care of my health, I can't take care of someone else. And then family, right? And then school, right? There's the general rules of life, right? I got my health and people I care about the most, my loved ones, maybe a friend in there because they're super close and I, like family. And then I have, maybe learning, hobbies, activities, interests. And then in the very bottom is usually the part they want to be in the top. And that might be like, gaming or whatever that is that gets hyper focused stuff. We talked about planning tools. Cool. I'm just bouncing around because I want to get some Hubble stuff in there. This is what a planner can look like if it's done, if it's completed, and how this can be so grounding when a child is seeing who they're trying to be. I love this planner. It's Order Out of Chaos. The link is in here, and it's the world's best planner because it has evenings in the calendar, and it allows a child to think about themselves in the evening. Oh, I have this sport going on. I have this activity going on. Oh, I have this time window between here and here. Oh, I can start my work then. They want to figure that out. They just don't have a roadmap to do that. They don't have any place to anchor their decisions on. They have mom, they have dad, like they have these other, right? And they need something more concrete. Give them something concrete and you continue to talk about it and you continuously reference it, right? The other thing is teaching consistency is significant. So many of our clients struggle. They can make good decisions and they can get organized. It's the consistency to follow through on who I'm trying to be day in and day out. So teaching them, what does a morning routine look like? What does it feel like? Right? What does my evening routine look like and feel like? How do I know how I'm doing? What are the anchors in that? Can be really, really empowering. So write it out. More importantly, have your child write it out. Do it with them. Have them be the advocate, right? The sense of agency around who they're trying to be. The autonomy there is monumental growth. Okay. This is a full-blown one, right? What does it look like for the whole day? I never looked at myself this way. This is kind of like cool. It's very organized. Yeah. It's the opposite of chaos, right? It's the opposite of stress. It's the opposite of feeling overwhelmed, right? I know who I'm trying to be. Cool. Now I just got to follow it. Yeah. That's it's called a schedule. But when we create our own, this leads to college too, college skills, right? When I start to develop my own schedule, I can actually develop skills for life that way too. Okay. So I know I've run out of time. I'm just talking. People
Yes.
probably left.
No, this has been wonderful, David. Thank you so much. I thank you for sharing that link so that our attendees were able to access your slides. And again, I was just checking. I think we've covered our questions, and I do want to stick to our time here. And again, it's been wonderful. David provided all of you his contact there. Please feel free to reach out to me or to Maura. We're always happy to answer questions, whether it's about who we are as a school or how we function as a school. We love talking about teaching and learning and would be excited to have those conversations with you. I'm just putting Maura's email in the chat and my email in the chat too. And again, David, thank you so much. And please feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions.